The main event. A few weeks after the Lakewood Mall incident, I was with a few of the homies at the car wash talking about our planned excursion to Vegas to see one of the greatest boxers of all time, Iron Mike Tyson. I contacted one of my partners who I had done some jail time with from the Rollin' Crips that used to scalp tickets. We placed an order for some tickets with him. The car wash owner, who was also a Crip, came over when he heard us talking about going to the fight and said, "Shuj and them say they bought 100 tickets for the Tyson fight." That was good intel for us to have, but we weren't tripping. It wasn't going to get in the way of our plans to go down and enjoy the fight. As a Crip said, Southsiders had been going to every big fight in Vegas since 1988. That was before rappers started going to Vegas to see the fights. In the 90s, I would go to Las Vegas every Sunday during the NFL season and bet on the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco Oilers, and the Green Bay Packers. So going to Las Vegas was routine for me. Me and my sister at the fight, 92. Me and my nephew Baby Lane, 93. We knew that Shuj would have his hit squad of dirty police with him. They were some cold motherfuckers. But we were some street dudes, so we weren't worried about that bullshit. The way we looked at it, they were recording industry dudes, but we were real street niggas. September 4th, 7th, 1996 was supposed to be another weekend excursion like the many we had taken before. Little did I know, this trip to Vegas, unlike the ones before, would change my life. We left Compton for Vegas on Thursday afternoon around 1 o'clock. Everybody met up at my house and we split from there. Before we hit the road, we had to keep with our established tradition of going to Greenblatt's Deli Amp. Fine wine on Sunset to get some chilled bottles of champagne, just the way I like them. Even though Zip was from New York, he liked to roll with us when we went to Vegas for events. So, he arranged to meet us at Greenblatt's. We purchased 2 cases of Taittinger Raws at $150 per bottle. That Taittinger Raws worked like Viagra for me. We also picked up a few bottles of Dom Perignon Rose. Once we stocked up on our cold bottles, we were ready to hit the road. My wife Paula and I were driving in a rented beige 1990 Buick Regal. Riding in a green van was my brother, Lil Dog, Fat Man, and Trey. Zip and the female rapper, Boxy Brown, were in a black 500 series Benz, 94. We rolled up a few fat joints with some California orange weed. Jumped onto the freeway, hit the and jammed all the way out there. Frankie Beverly's Silky Smooth Before I Let Go got us started, and we played hit after hit for the trip soundtrack. The Dramatics, Luther Vandross, Chaka Khan, the OJs, Anita Baker, the Isley Brothers. I wasn't a big fan of gangsta rap since I was living that gangsta life. They were rapping about what I did every day. Instead, we cruised to Vegas the whole trip listening to non-stop classic Ramp. We arrived at the newly opened Caesars Palace Resort and Casino around 5 p.m. It was a huge place with all the amenities you could think of, and a massive casino floor, which was perfect since all of us loved to gamble. We laid our heads in the Caesars Palace, but for partying, kicking back, and meeting up, we would always get some rooms at the Carriage House. The Carriage House was about a block off the strip, but it was cool because they had suites with kitchenettes where you could cook your food. The night we arrived at Caesars Palace, we laid back, popped a few bottles, went down to the casino, and started gambling big. We was betting $1,000 a roll, having a ball doing what players do. I gave my wife $2,500, and she went out with a few of the ladies who had traveled down with us. When it was time to be with us, they were with us, but they did their 95 separate girl stuff, shopping, gambling, and sitting by the pool. On Friday, my nephew Baby Lane and some of my little homies came down and kicked it with us. Baby Lane was about 6'3" with an athletic build. He was slim but muscular, a one-punch knockout master. He was a good dude with a big heart. He'd give the shirt off of his back to anybody in need, and he loved life. In all, we were down there about 18 deep. We rented 3 rooms on the same floor at Caesars Palace and had a ball. For the major events, not only would we be out there gambling and partying hard, but we would also do like Missy Elliott's song and get super duper fly. Once we gambled a bit, I headed over to the Versace store in the shopping wonder of the world, also known as the Forum Shops at Caesars Palace. I purchased a $3,000 blue suit with white pinstripes, some blue Crocs from the Gucci store, and a white shirt with a blue and gold tie. I went to Cousins Fine Tailoring and had them tailor my suit up for me. We went to Neiman Marcus and picked up some of that expensive-ass Indian cologne that has a different smell every time you put it on. When my nephew Baby Lane came down with his homies, he saw former MLB baseball player Barry Bonds with a badass brown Versace tuxedo. So Baby Lane, being the baller that he was, went out and bought a black version of the same $6,000 Versace tux he saw Barry Bonds wearing. Some people have a hard time understanding how we were what they failed to realize is once a gangbanger becomes a gangster, a gangbanger becomes pants. A gangster, you pull your pants. Living. When they hear the word Crip, they imagine somebody with their pants sagging beneath their butt. But what they fail to realize is once up, there's a difference between gangbangers and gangsters. We were gangsters. One year we went to Ice-T's New Year's Eve party, and we were so fresh, smelling so good. We had our bottles in our hands. Ice-T was like, those are some real players right there. That night I was wearing a $2,500 cashmere overcoat over my suit. Fight night finally arrived. I sat on the second row, not far from some of the celebrities that were in the house. Since I'd purchased the fight tickets for my scalper buddy, our seats were spread out all around the arena. We had decided before we went in that when the fight was over, we would all meet at the caf inside the MGM. Once the fight started, it didn't take long for Iron Mike to put Bruce Seldon's lights out. Mike put him down on the canvas for the first time with about 140-97. Left in the first round, and less than 20 seconds later, the fight was over. GKO. After the match, we headed to the prearranged meeting place where we waited for about 15 minutes. Little by little, everybody started showing up except my nephew. Then, some 118 East Coast Crips came and told us that they saw some death row niggas jump on my nephew down by the casino. We came to find out later that the same dude from the Lakewood Mall that got his chain snatched was walking with Tupac when they saw Baby Lane in the lobby of the MGM. We rushed up out of the caf and went to find Baby Lane. We saw him inside the MGM minutes after they had jumped him. By the time we got there, Shuj, Pack, and their crew had already left. Baby Lane's shoulder was a little messed up, but other than that, he was all right. When I asked him what happened, he said, "Them death row niggas rushed me, one of them. Niggas from the Lakewood Mall was running with the boy that started that shit. A few East Coast Crips came over and asked if we wanted them to go with us. No, we're good. We'll handle our shit, but good looking out. We appreciated their offer, but this was a matter we were determined to handle ourselves. We couldn't let no record company studio gangsters do us like that, had they, in 98, lost their fucking rapping ass minds? On top of that, Puffy had already talked to me about helping him out with the problem he was having with them niggas. That was a double whammy. Then you add on top of that the fact that we helped Shuge with the money to get his record business going. And the nigga gonna bite the hands that fed him. Add insult to injury cause Shuge still hadn't paid Boss Man his money back. Got too big for his britches and stopped taking Boss Man's calls. Strike 3. Homie, you're out. VVV. Fuck that big homie. We know where them niggas gonna be. Big's gonna. Is gonna be it. There. Rage was evident, ignited upon learning that my nephew, Baby Lane, had gotten jumped. How? You know? I calmly asked. The nigga's been on the radio out here for weeks, talking about a death row after-fight party at club. That nigga pack's supposed to be there too. Club was a Las Vegas nightclub owned by death row CEO Shuge Knight. The intelligence was from reliable sources, as some of the younger homies from our set had been stationed in Vegas selling dope, a satellite operation of sorts. 8 homies, I commanded, that's where we're going. Then club as we headed to our vehicles. Southside had not gone down to Vegas thinking about marrying Shuge Knight or Tupac Shakur. We were out there to do what we had been doing in Vegas for years, eat, drink, and be merry. When conversations would come up about $1 million bounty on the heads of Shuge Knight and Tupac Shakur, that was business. But after Tupac, Shuge, and them death row niggas jumped on my nephew Baby Lane, the shit became ominously personal. While we were waiting for the valet to bring out our cars, Zip seized the opportunity and called me over to his Benz. Zip was a big-time New York player, pimp, and hustler who used to come out to California to handle his business and kick it with us sometimes. As I walked up to the driver's side window, I noticed that the rapper, Foxy Brown, was in the car with Zip. So he instructed her to step out of the car and motioned for me to jump in. Zip had a hidden compartment that he opened up, reached in and pulled a black .40 Glock out. He turned to me and said, "It's time to get the money." Zip handed me the 17-shot pistol, which I promptly put down the back waist of my pants. I hopped out of the car, held the door open for Foxy Brown to get back in, closed the door, and they pulled off. "Get in the car you came in, let's roll," I shouted as our cars came out from the valet. We left immediately from the MGM parking lot and headed directly to club. I was still appropriately dressed in my Ray Luca Crime Story suit since there was about to be a real-life crime story. We pulled into the back parking lot of club, where the talent and VIPs entered. In front of the club, there was a long line of excited, drunk people waiting to enter the club. First plan to confront Shuge. "Hey nigga, why the fuck y'all jump on my nephew?" The ironic thing is I had just seen Shuge in Vegas the night before the fight. He and members of his death row crew were rolling in their Rolls Royces. We greeted each other and everything. "What's up, big dog? What's up?" We were both major players in the same game. Shuge had the music industry. I had the streets. We both had the same boss. If Shuge and them niggas had a beef with something Southside had done, Shuge could have said something to me when he saw me that night. Instead, Shuge and his boys committed the ultimate disrespect when they kicked and beat down my nephew Baby Lane in a video seen around the world. In case my diplomatic approach to resolving the situation didn't work, we had 3 vehicles, 3 to 4 people in each, ready to burn their asses up. My crew was do or die. All my young homies had already been shot at least once, so their street experience turned them into some stone-cold killers. They learned not to wait to get shot, but to be the shooter. They had the mentality of, it's either them or me, and it ain't gonna be me. With solemn faces, we waited in complete silence in the back parking lot of club for more than an hour. Inside our vehicles, nobody took a drink. There was no weed, no music, not a peep. We were as grave as a heart attack. The only thing audible was niggas. Breathing intense, throbbing heartbeats. There was no need for words. We all understood why we were there. After waiting for that hour and a half, which felt more like 4 hours, I decided for us to get the fuck out of there. I called the homies on their phones. "They're taking too damn long. Let's get fucked up. Move out." One by one, the drivers started their engines and slowly crept out of the back parking lot. Lucky for them, they never showed up because it would have been like Al Capone's Valentine's Day massacre if they had. One thing about our crew, when it was time to handle business, we handled it with the best of them. And when it was time to have fun, we did that too. It's not that we were over what had happened to Baby Lane, it's just we couldn't control when them niggas were going to show up. Waiting so long was stopping us from doing what we had gone to Vegas to do in the first place, have a good time. Our next destination was the Carriage House, a Las Vegas hotel where we had rented a few rooms as a kickback spot. On the way to the Carriage House, we stopped by the liquor barn to buy some bottles of Dom Perignon Rose and Cristal. As we were inside our vehicles, nobody took a drink. There was no weed, no music, not a peep. We were as serious as a heart attack. Driving to the liquor barn, it became evident that the guys in the van with me were worried that Shuge would get some of his police hitmen to come back and try to kill us if we went after them. "The police do hits for that nigga," one of them said. I remember thinking to myself, y'all shouldn't have jumped your punk asses in here if you're scared. Y'all know what we came here to do. C-Ray, who was one of my top salesmen and later became the first one to start snitching on niggas, was in the van with me along with his cousin Trey and BMF's Big Meech out of Detroit. As we were loading up to leave the liquor barn, I took advantage of the chance to get away from them scary niggas in the van. First jumped in the front passenger seat of the Cadillac because I knew the niggas instantly. Caddy wasn't with that bullshit. 103. Pulled out the Glock that Zip had given me and tossed it in the back seat. Bubble up did the driving. Baby Lane and Freaky were riding in the back. After our pit stop at the liquor barn, we continued toward the Carriage House. As we were driving, the 2 vehicles that were with us got caught at the traffic light, but we kept rolling. A few blocks down, we were sitting at the light, and who the fuck did we see? The death row caravan hit the corner, with Tupac hanging out of the window of a black, luxury BMW, waving to his fans. People on the streets were screaming, "Tupac, Tupac, we love you, Tupac." In unison, all of our heads turned. There the motherfuckers go right there. If Pac had not been hanging out of the window, we would have never seen them. Bust a U, bubble up, busted a U-turn and hit the gutter lane on their asses. As they sat in traffic, we slowly rolled past the long line of luxury cars they had in their caravan, looking into each one until we pulled up to the front vehicle and found who we were seeking. Like two rams, locking horns, Shuj and I looked each other dead in the eye. Our eyes locked. The terrified expression on Shuj's face read, "Damn, them niggas." No words exchanged. The time for talking had passed. The shit was about to go down. The next few seconds all happened so quickly. The shit was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. It was the first and only time in my life that I could relate to the police command, "Keep your hands where I can see them." Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. The first shot skinned Shuj in his head. I thought the motherfucker was dead. I heard stories that Shuj supposedly used Tupac as a shield when the bullets started flying, but that's some bullshit. Shuj was already wounded. He was the first one that got touched. As the rounds continued flying, I ducked down so that I wouldn't get hit. When the shooting stopped, we boned out, and a white Chrysler Sebring full of young ladies was following us. Their window quickly got shot out, so they stopped. The interesting thing to me was with all them rough-ass niggas they were supposed to have with them, none of them did a damn thing and tried to come after us. There were a lot of shots let off in both directions. I don't know why the Vegas police didn't check Tupac's hands for powder burns to see if he was shooting because the car we were in was shut the fuck up. I don't understand why people that act like Tupac was an angel. Shit, the nigga had busted on some off-duty cops in Atlanta a few years earlier, so he wasn't scared to bust. On top of that, by the time we rolled up, he had to know the person they jumped on in the casino was a Southside Crip, so they had to be on high alert. When the shot settled, a couple of people in our car had fragments and glass in their hair, but none of us had been hit. The strip was in an uproar as police cars and ambulances raced to the scene. Somehow Shuj, instead of driving straight to Memorial Hospital, he did some studio gangster shit. He made a U-turn back onto the Las Vegas Strip. Confident that the death row crew and the police would be looking for the car that we were driving, we abandoned the car and got away from it quickly. In some shit you'd see on the Twilight Zone, we scurried to get to the other side of Las Vegas Boulevard. When we got to the middle divider, the light changed to red, and we had to wait on the median. As we were standing on the median waiting to cross Las Vegas Boulevard, two ambulances passed by right in front of where we were standing with their sirens blaring. The first ambulance passed by, with Tupac in it, and the medics working frantically to provide medical attention. A second one, not too far behind it, Shuj in it. There we were, looking right into the ambulances, transporting Tupac and Shuj to Memorial Hospital. Everyone knows the rest of the story, as 6 days later, Tupac died as a result of his injuries. The moral of the story, real gangsters are nothing to fuck with. It's a ruthless way of life, one that I've lived for the majority of my life. Some gangster rappers have glamorized and glorified the life like it's cool and something to strive for. They have a lot of people's minds twisted. The truth of the matter is gangbanging and acting like a thug ain't no joke. These street wars taking place in urban communities around the country are as real as the wars that us troops are engaged in around. Pac chose the wrong game to play and the wrong niggas to play with. He shouldn't have ever got involved in that bullshit of trying to be a thug. The world, in some cases the streets, body counts are even higher. For us, Vegas was another day at the office. It may sound cold-hearted, but from a street perspective, the killings of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls would be considered nothing more than collateral damage. As a result, the hip-hop world has lost two of its most talented and revered musical artists and icons. At this point in my life, I can say that I have a 107 deep sense of remorse for what happened to Tupac. He was a talented artist with tons of potential to impact the world. I hate that Tupac's family, friends, and fans, especially his mother, Afeni Shakur, had to go through the pain of losing her son. It's terrible losing people like that. I know that pain too well. However, I stand firm on the point that Tupac, Shuj Knight, and the rest of those niggas didn't have any business putting their hands on my beloved nephew Baby Lane. Period. Them jumping on my nephew gave us the ultimate green light to do something to their ass. Tupac chose the wrong game to play and the wrong niggas to play with. Shuj and them should have done a better job of protecting that dude because they knew who the fuck we were and the kind of shit we were capable of. Tupac may not have known, but Shuj and his peeps definitely knew. Tupac was a guppy that got swallowed up by some ferocious sharks. He shouldn't have ever got involved in that bullshit of trying to be a thug. Southside Crips earned some stripes on the collar from street niggas due to the Tupac shooting, but it generated too much attention and put us under a microscope by law enforcement that would not cease and eventually brought us down. It was a big-time loss for everybody involved.